Hey guys, tonight we're taking a journey, not to some loud, battle-scarred empire, but deep into the quiet brilliance of the Aztec world. Imagine standing on the shores of Lake Texcoco, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming water lilies, the distant hum of Tenochtitlan rising like a living thing. You're not just observing, you're breathing in the very ingenuity that allowed a civilization to thrive in what seemed like an impossible landscape. You might think you know the Aztecs, the fierce warriors, the grand temples, but tonight we're peeling back those layers to discover the subtle, often overlooked inventions that shaped their daily lives. The kind of things that, if you weren't paying attention, you probably wouldn't even realize were there. It's a bit like trying to find a perfectly camouflaged stick insect in a dense jungle. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And trust me, some of these innovations are so clever, so elegant, they might just blow your mind. You probably won't survive this journey with your preconceived notions intact, which, honestly, is half the fun. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're feeling extra sleepy, maybe drop your location and local time in the comments. It's always cool to see where everyone is drifting off from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing on the marshy edge of Lake Texcoco, a seemingly inhospitable swamp. Yet, around you, life doesn't just survive, it flourishes. The secret, ancient agriculture, a system so sophisticated it makes modern farming look, well, a bit uninspired. The Aztecs weren't just throwing seeds at the ground and hoping for the best. Oh no, they were horticultural masterminds. You see, the Valley of Mexico, while fertile, was also prone to flooding, and a good chunk of it was taken up by the lake itself. So, what do you do when you need more land, but all you have is water? You don't complain, you build on it. This foundational innovation, the Chinampa system, allowed them to transform watery wetlands into incredibly productive arable land. Think of it, they literally created new land, hectare by hectare, simply by dredging the rich lakebed mud and piling it up into raised beds. This wasn't just about making new fields. It was about creating a self-sustaining ecosystem. The channels between these raised beds served multiple purposes. They provided irrigation, allowed canoe transport, and, crucially, the constant supply of nutrient-rich silt from the lake bottom acted as a perpetual natural fertilizer. You never had to worry about your corn getting hungry. Historians still argue whether the Chinampa system predates the Aztecs or if they simply perfected it. But what's undeniable is their scale and efficiency. Imagine the sheer organizational effort required to construct and maintain these vast networks of raised fields. It wasn't a single invention, but a culmination of understanding soil, water, and plant life in a way that truly maximized output. It was literally farming on steroids, but the organic, sustainable kind. And the best part, it worked year after year, feeding millions in a bustling metropolis. It's enough to make a modern agronomist weep with envy, or at least wonder why we're still tilling fields in the traditional sense when floating gardens were invented centuries ago. As your canoe glides through the narrow channels between the raised beds, you can almost feel the fertile earth beneath you vibrating with life. these aren't just dirt piles. These are the floating gardens you've heard whispers about, the legendary chinampas flourishing right before your eyes. And floating isn't quite accurate in the literal sense. They're more like fixed, exceptionally well-drained, and constantly renewed artificial islands, anchored by woven reeds and the roots of strategically planted trees, particularly the Ahwot willow. Imagine the sheer ingenuity. You're not just growing food, you're growing the land itself. You see, the Aztecs would build a rectangular framework of reeds and branches, then pile in alternating layers of mud, decaying vegetation, and more mud, creating a highly organic, incredibly fertile foundation. It's like a giant, superficial compost bin that also happens to be your garden plot. The surrounding water wasn't just for show. It regulated the temperature, keeping the crops cool in the intense sun and providing a constant capillary action irrigation system. Your corn, beans, squash, and chili peppers never went thirsty, nor did they get waterlogged. It's a delicate balance, a hydrological ballet performed daily. One mainstream historical fact about these gardens is their incredible productivity. Some estimates suggest chinampas could yield up to 7 harvests a year, far exceeding the output of traditional dryland farming. This wasn't just about feeding a few families. This was about sustaining an empire. The quirky tidbit, the mud from the lakebed, rich in organic matter and minerals, was so effective as fertilizer that modern scientists have struggled to replicate the sustained yields without chemical additives. It was the original superfood diet, grown right at your doorstep. Imagine having a fresh salad delivered straight from your personal water plot, no supermarket required. Historians still argue whether the initial impetus for chinampas was purely agricultural necessity, or if there was a spiritual connection to the idea of earth rising from the waters, echoing their creation myths. Regardless of the deeper meaning, the practical application was revolutionary. You might even spot a farmer casually poling his canoe, tossing a handful of something onto his plot, probably a bit more of that magic mud, or perhaps some carefully collected human waste, because when you're an Aztec farmer, nothing goes to waste, especially not good fertilizer. It's a closed-loop system, remarkably sustainable, and frankly, a bit humbling when you consider our own reliance on industrial agriculture. They figured out how to make a swamp into a breadbasket, not with machines and chemicals, but with mud, reeds, and an encyclopedic understanding of their environment. It makes you wonder what other simple, elegant solutions we've overlooked in our quest for technological complexity. Leaving the verdant embrace of the chinampas, you navigate your canoe towards the gleaming city of Tenochtitlan, a testament to an even grander feat of engineering, water management mastery. This wasn't just about bringing water in, it was about controlling an entire lake, a vast, dynamic body of water that could be both a lifeline and a destroyer. Imagine living on an island city in the middle of a saline lake, surrounded by freshwater springs and prone to dramatic flooding. Sounds like a recipe for disaster, right? Not for the Aztecs. They built sophisticated systems of dikes, levees, and aqueducts that would make many a modern engineer nod in impressed silence. One of the most impressive feats was the Nezahualcóyotl dike, a massive 16-kilometer-long barrier constructed to separate the fresh water of the western lake from the brackish, unpotable water of the eastern side. Think about that for a second. They built a wall in the middle of a lake. This wasn't just a pile of rocks. It was a complex structure of stone, earth, and timber, designed to withstand the forces of nature and regulate water levels. It essentially created a massive freshwater reservoir right next to their city, protecting it from floods and ensuring a steady supply of drinking water. It's like having your own personal climate-controlled bubble, but for an entire civilization. A mainstream historical fact is that this dike was so effective it remained in use, at least in part, for centuries after the Spanish conquest. The quirky tidbit here is that the Aztecs also employed a system of sluice gates within these dikes, which allowed them to control water flow with precision. Imagine a vast, intricate network of adjustable valves for an entire lake. They could open and close these gates to flush out stagnant water, manage salinity, and prevent sudden inundations. It wasn't just about stopping water. It was about directing it, nurturing it, making it work for them. Historians still argue whether the astronomical alignments of certain structures also played a role in determining optimal times for water management operations, or if it was purely a matter of practical observation. Regardless, it was a level of hydraulic engineering that was far ahead of its time. You can almost hear the gentle creak of the sluice gates, a testament to the constant vigilance required to keep such a vast system functioning. It reminds you that sometimes the greatest innovations are the ones that control the very elements, quietly ensuring survival and prosperity for millions, all without a single computer chip in sight. You probably wouldn't survive a single rainy season in Tenochtitlan without their hydrological prowess. And frankly, neither would I. Stepping off the canoe onto the causeway, you notice a glinting sheen on the everyday objects carried by passersby. A sharp knife, a polished mirror, even the subtle shimmer of earlobes. This is the pervasive presence of obsidian's everyday use, a material so fundamental to Aztec life that it was practically their plastic, steel, and razor blades all rolled into one. Obsidian, a naturally occurring volcanic glass, was abundant. In the Valley of Mexico, and the Aztecs, masters of resourcefulness, turned it into an art form and a technological marvel. One mainstream historical fact about obsidian is its incredible sharpness. When fractured, it produces edges far sharper than even surgical steel, capable of slicing with almost microscopic precision. This wasn't just useful for carving impressive statues. It was revolutionary for daily tasks. Imagine trimming your beard with an obsidian razor so keen it feels like it isn't even touching your skin until you realize you're perfectly shaven. Or picture a surgeon delicately performing an operation with tools that leave minimal tissue damage. Yes, Aztec surgeons used obsidian scalpels, a testament to its practical application in medicine, a far cry from the blunt instruments of medieval Europe. The quirky tidbit, beyond the obvious blades and weapons, obsidian was also used for intricate, decorative items and even, surprisingly, as mirrors. Polished obsidian could create a reflective surface, not perfectly clear like modern glass, but certainly enough to catch your reflection or perhaps gaze into for divinatory purposes. Imagine checking your appearance in a mirror made from solidified volcanic fire. Quite the aesthetic statement, wouldn't you say? Historians still argue whether the widespread use of obsidian limited the development of metallurgy in Aztec society. or if its superior qualities simply made metal tools less necessary for most applications. You see craftsmen chipping away at obsidian cores, deftly flaking off razor-sharp blades with a remarkable speed and accuracy. Each strike a testament to centuries of accumulated knowledge and skill. It's a reminder that true innovation isn't always about inventing something entirely new, but about perfecting what nature provides, turning a mere rock into the cornerstone of an empire's daily existence. It really makes you appreciate the simple yet profound impact of a perfectly sharpened edge. As you walk through the bustling marketplace, you notice scribes meticulously unrolling long folded screens, tracing intricate designs and symbols with a practiced hand. This isn't just art. This is the Codex Communication Code, the sophisticated system of writing and record keeping that allowed the Aztec Empire to manage its vast territories, record its history, and transmit knowledge across generations. Unlike the alphabetic scripts you're familiar with, the Aztec codices employed a combination of pictograms, pictures representing objects, ideograms, symbols representing ideas, and phonetic glyphs, symbols representing sounds. It was a beautiful, complex, and highly effective way to communicate, even if it looks a bit like an ancient graphic novel. One mainstream historical fact about the codices is their crucial role in administration. They weren't just pretty books. They were vital documents, recording tribute payments, census data, historical events, and religious rituals. Imagine trying to run an empire without spreadsheets or databases. The Aztecs did it with these intricately painted manuscripts, compiled by highly trained scribes known as Tlaqueloc. Each codex was a portable library, a living record of their civilization. You can almost hear the soft rustle of the deer hide or fig bark paper as a scribe carefully applies pigment, each stroke imbued with meaning. The quirky tidbit: many codices also contained detailed information on flora and fauna, medicinal plants, and astronomical observations, essentially serving as encyclopedias of natural history and science. Imagine flipping through pages depicting precise botanical illustrations, centuries before Linnaeus formalized classification. It's like discovering an ancient field guide that doubles as a historical epic. Historians still argue whether the Aztec writing system was on the cusp of developing into a fully phonetic alphabet, or if its existing mixed system was considered perfectly sufficient for their needs. Regardless, the destruction of most of these codices by the Spanish conquistadors, often burned as pagan texts, represents an incalculable loss of indigenous knowledge. You can't help but feel a pang of regret for the stories and secrets that vanished in those flames. What we have today, a mere handful, are treasures that offer tantalizing glimpses into a worldview that was both practical and profoundly spiritual, all encoded in beautiful, silent images. Moving from the vibrant marketplace into a quiet, shaded courtyard, you might catch the subtle scent of herbs and steaming infusions. This is where you'd encounter the surprising world of medicine's hidden wisdom, an area where Aztec ingenuity truly shone far beyond what many European societies practiced at the time. Their understanding of the human body, illness, and healing was remarkably advanced, combining empirical observation with spiritual beliefs, creating a holistic approach to well-being. One mainstream historical fact is their sophisticated surgical practices. The Aztecs performed complex procedures, including setting broken bones, treating dental issues, and even performing trepanation, drilling holes in the skull, often with successful outcomes. Imagine undergoing brain surgery in a pre-antibiotic era, relying on the steady hand of a Ticitel, an Aztec healer. They used specialized obsidian instruments, as we touched on earlier, which were incredibly sharp and precise, minimizing trauma. It's a humbling thought, isn't it, that some surgical techniques we consider modern had ancient precursors. The quirky tidbit that might make you raise an eyebrow is their extensive pharmacopoeia, identifying their properties, preparing intricate remedies, and even understanding dosages. For instance, the Tlahueldal pan plant was used as an analgesic, while extracts from the Yotli plant were applied to wounds for antiseptic properties. You might even find yourself being offered a soothing herbal tea for that slight cough you've developed from all this time travel. It was a natural pharmacy, grown directly from the rich biodiversity of their land. Historians still argue whether the effectiveness of some Aztec remedies was purely physiological or significantly enhanced by the placebo effect and the holistic spiritual context of healing. Regardless, their medical practitioners were highly respected, often specializing in different ailments, from bone setting to midwifery. It's a testament to a society that prioritized health and well-being, using what nature provided with remarkable insight long before the advent of synthesized drugs. You can almost feel the gentle hum of traditional knowledge passed down through generations, making sure everyone had access to care. Emerging from the quiet healing garden, you find yourself amidst the towering structures of Tenochtitlan, an urban marvel. What truly strikes you isn't just their size, but the intelligent design behind them, the architectural adaptations that made Aztec buildings resilient, functional, and surprisingly comfortable. They didn't just stack stones, they understood their environment, the seismic activity of the region, and the need for buildings that could breathe. One mainstream historical fact is their ingenious use of floating foundations for larger structures built on the soft, swampy lakebed. Instead of digging deep into unstable ground, they drove long wooden piles into the earth, then constructed a stone platform on top, effectively creating a stable base that could subtly shift with the ground, mitigating earthquake damage. Imagine building a skyscraper on a giant raft. That's essentially what they were doing, centuries before modern seismic engineering. It's why many of their temples and palaces stood for so long, enduring the tremors that frequently ripple through the Valley of Mexico. You can almost feel the slight give in the ground beneath your feet, a subtle reminder of the city's dynamic relationship with its foundations. The quirky tidbit: Aztec architects also incorporated features for passive climate control. Courtyards were strategically placed to capture breezes and provide shade, while certain wall designs and windowless lower levels helped keep interiors cool in the scorching sun. Think of it as ancient air conditioning, but without the energy. Bill, you might notice the clever placement of doorways and open spaces, designed not just for traffic flow, but for optimal airflow, creating natural ventilation. Historians still argue whether the alignment of certain temple platforms was solely for astronomical observation, or if it also served a practical purpose in directing air currents and maximizing light. Regardless, their buildings weren't just impressive, they were responsive to the environment, a harmonious blend of aesthetics and practicality. It's a subtle form of quiet invention, designing structures that adapt to nature rather than fighting against it. A lesson, perhaps, for modern builders still trying to tame the elements with brute force and excessive energy consumption. You wouldn't survive a summer in Tenochtitlan without their clever designs. Believe me, as the sun begins its slow descent over the great temple, you notice the shadows lengthening, perfectly aligning with certain architectural features. This isn't coincidence. It's a silent testament to beyond the calendar's cycles, the lesser-known astronomical observations that guided Aztec life far beyond the famous 260-day Tonopahuli and 365-day Shupahuali calendars. While those cycles dictated religious festivals and agricultural seasons, the Aztecs were also keen observers of the night sky, tracking celestial events for both practical and spiritual purposes. One mainstream historical fact is their precise understanding of the solstices and equinoxes. Temples, like the Templo Mayor in Tenochtitlan, were deliberately oriented to align with the rising sun on specific dates, such as the spring equinox. On those mornings, the sun would rise directly between the two shrines atop the temple, casting a dramatic shadow that marked the start of a new agricultural cycle. Imagine being part of a vast crowd, watching the first rays of dawn pierce the darkness, knowing that this precise alignment was a direct message from the cosmos, interpreted by the priests. It's a breathtaking blend of astronomy and architecture, a grand cosmic clock built into the very fabric of their city. The quirky tidbit: beyond these major solar events, the Aztecs also meticulously tracked the cycles of Venus. This wasn't just a pretty star. Venus, as both the morning and evening star, held profound significance, influencing warfare, agricultural timings, and even the coronation of rulers. They had tables for its complex cycles, indicating a level of observational astronomy that rivaled many old-world civilizations. It's like having a celestial GPS that also tells you when to plant your corn or when to launch your next diplomatic mission. Historians still argue whether the Aztec understanding of planetary movements was purely observational or if they developed predictive models for celestial events, akin to early astronomical tables. Regardless, their quiet temples and observatories were bustling centers of celestial knowledge, where priests and astronomers charted the movements of the heavens, ensuring that human activities remained in harmony with the cosmic dance. You probably wouldn't survive an agricultural season without their celestial guidance, as every plant, every harvest was linked to the rhythms of the sky. As twilight deepens, you catch the distant rhythm of drums and the haunting call of flutes. Drifting through the city air, this isn't just background noise. It's a living part of the Aztec world, revealing the nuanced beauty of soundscapes and ceramics. While we often focus on their visual arts and grand architecture, the Aztecs also crafted a rich auditory landscape through a remarkable array of musical instruments and the resonant pottery that both produced sound and contained it. One mainstream historical fact is the significance of the huetel vertical drum and the toponaztli horizontal slit drum in Aztec ceremonies and daily life. These weren't merely instruments for entertainment. They were integral to religious rituals, warfare, and even communication over distances. Imagine the deep, resonant thrum of a huetel accompanying the chants of priests, or the sharp, percussive clicks of a topanastli signaling a change in guard. These drums, often elaborately carved, were central to the emotional and spiritual fabric of their society, conveying messages and moods that words alone could not. You can almost feel the vibrations of the drum beats deep in your chest, a primal connection to an ancient rhythm. The quirky tidbit: the Aztecs also created a fascinating variety of wind instruments from clay, including ocarinas, flutes, and whistles that mimicked animal sounds or produced complex melodic patterns. Some of these ceramic instruments were shaped like fantastical creatures, serving as both musical devices and artistic sculptures. Imagine an ancient ceramic duck quacking a tune, or a stylized eagle singing a mournful melody. These weren't just toys. They were sophisticated sound producers, capable of surprisingly intricate notes and harmonies. Historians still argue whether the Aztec musical scales and compositional structures bear any resemblance to modern Western music, or if they operated on entirely different principles of harmony and rhythm. Regardless, the mastery required to craft these precisely tuned ceramic instruments speaks volumes about their understanding of acoustics and material science. You might even find yourself humming along to a tune that's been lost to time, a whisper of a melody carried on the night air, connecting you to the quiet symphony of an ancient empire. Stepping away from the vibrant textile markets, you notice the orderly flow of people and goods moving throughout the city and beyond. This effortless circulation speaks to a less visible but equally vital innovation: the sophisticated network of roads and river routes that facilitated trade, communication, and military movements across the vast Aztec Empire. While not paved highways like the Romans, their system was perfectly adapted to the diverse Mexican landscape, combining land and water pathways. One mainstream historical fact is the extensive system of causeways that connected the island city of Tenochtitlan to the mainland. These elevated earthen roads, often several meters wide, were engineering marvels that not only provided dry passage over the lake, but also contained strategically placed drawbridges. Imagine the strategic brilliance in times of peace. These bridges facilitated trade, but in times of conflict, they could be razed, effectively turning the island capital into an impenetrable fortress. You can feel the steady thrum of foot traffic on the causeway, a constant pulse of commerce and connection. The quirky tidbit: beyond these grand causeways, the Aztecs utilized a remarkable system of relay runners known as panani, meaning swift-footed, who could carry messages, tribute, and even fresh fish from the coast to the emperor in Tenochtitlan, covering hundreds of kilometers in a single day. Imagine receiving fresh seafood for dinner, caught that very morning from the Pacific, delivered by a human express service. It was an ingenious communication network, a vital nerve system for the empire, far faster than any wheeled transport of the era. Historians still argue whether the panani system was inspired by earlier Mesoamerican cultures, or if the Aztecs significantly improved upon it, perfecting its efficiency and reach. Regardless, the combination of carefully maintained land routes and the ubiquitous network of canals and waterways for canoe traffic created a seamless transportation system. It was a testament to their logistical prowess, ensuring that goods flowed, information traveled, and the empire remained connected, all without the rumble of carts or the roar of engines. You probably wouldn't survive a single market day without relying on these well-established routes to get your goods to market. Having traversed the empire's vast arteries, you now find yourself in a typical Aztec dwelling. And what might surprise you is the level of comfort and ingenuity found within. This brings us to household comforts explored, revealing the subtle inventions that made daily life more pleasant and efficient for the common Aztec, far beyond what you might expect from a primitive civilization. They weren't living in crude hovels. Their homes were designed with practicality and well-being in mind. One mainstream historical fact is the widespread use of the tomascal, a type of steam bath or sweat lodge. These structures, typically small domed buildings made of stone or adobe, were essential for both hygiene and ritual purification. Imagine stepping into a dark, warm chamber, feeling the steam infused with herbs envelop you, cleansing both body and spirit. It's an ancient spa experience, a testament to their understanding of health and relaxation, and a practice that continues. In some indigenous communities today, you can almost feel the therapeutic warmth seeping into your bones, washing away the day's exertions. The quirky tidbit: Aztec homes often featured incredibly efficient earthenware griddles called comals for cooking tortillas, a staple food. These flat, circular griddles, heated over an open fire, distributed heat evenly and retained it well, making the daily task of tortilla making much faster and more fuel efficient. Imagine the sheer number of tortillas consumed daily across the empire. A good comal was an indispensable kitchen invention, making that repetitive task a little less arduous. Historians still argue whether the comal evolved independently in Mesoamerica, or if its design was influenced by earlier ceramic innovations. Regardless, it was a quiet revolution in the kitchen, enabling efficient, large-scale food preparation for millions. You might also notice clever storage solutions, woven mats for sleeping that provided insulation and comfort, and perhaps even small, well-maintained gardens within courtyards, offering both beauty and fresh herbs. It's a reminder that ingenuity isn't always about grand monuments. Sometimes it's about the small, thoughtful improvements that make everyday life genuinely better, proving that even back then, everyone appreciated a comfortable home and a good meal. Moving from the intimate confines of an Aztec home, you step back into the vibrant hum of the marketplace, where transactions unfold with a remarkable smoothness. This seamless exchange points to the underlying sophistication of calculations and commerce, the systems of measurement and exchange that underpinned the vast Aztec economy. While they didn't use coined money as we understand it, their methods were incredibly effective for a bustling imperial trade network. One mainstream historical fact is the use of a bartering system, supplemented by various forms of commodity money. While cacao beans were a widely accepted form of currency for small transactions, more valuable goods like quills filled with gold dust, cotton cloaks, quachadli, and even copper axe blades also served as mediums of exchange for larger purchases. Imagine haggling over a finely woven blanket, and instead of pulling out a wallet, you're counting out a handful of fragrant cacao beans. It makes your morning latte seem positively extravagant. This flexible system allowed for trade across vast distances and for a wide variety of goods, from precious stones to everyday foodstuffs. The quirky tidbit: the Aztecs employed a sophisticated vigesimal base 20 numerical system for counting and calculations, distinct from the based-in system we use today. This system allowed them to perform complex mathematical operations, crucial for managing tribute collection, calendrical calculations, and architectural measurements. Imagine counting everything in groups of 20, from bundles of corn to lines of warriors. It's like using a different kind of abacus in your head, perfectly suited for their administrative needs. Historians still argue whether their numerical system developed independently or if it shared roots with other Mesoamerican civilizations. But its efficiency in managing a complex empire is undeniable. You'd see merchants meticulously counting out tribute items, perhaps using knotted ropes or carefully arranged bundles to keep track of vast quantities, a quiet testament to their organizational prowess. It's a reminder that even without the convenience of modern calculators or standardized currency, complex economies can flourish with logical, well-understood systems, demonstrating that innovation isn't always about new tools, but often about clever ways to use existing resources. You probably wouldn't survive a single market day without understanding their unique way of counting. Leaving the bustling marketplace, you find yourself in a quieter, more structured environment, perhaps near a temple school where young voices are reciting lessons. This glimpse reveals education's quiet foundation, the highly organized and pervasive learning environments that shaped Aztec society, cultivating not just warriors and priests, but also artisans, scribes, and administrators. This wasn't a casual ad hoc affair. It was a deliberate, state-sponsored system designed to instill values, skills, and knowledge from a young age. One mainstream historical fact is the existence of universal, mandatory education for both boys and girls, though in separate institutions and with different curricula. Boys typically attended either the Telpochcali Youth House, which focused on practical skills, military training, and civic duties, or the Comicac, reserved for the nobility, where they received rigorous instruction in religion, writing, astronomy, and statecraft. Girls, on the other hand, received education primarily at home, learning domestic skills, religious duties, and textile arts, all crucial for the functioning of society. Imagine every child, regardless of social standing, receiving a structured education, a concept far ahead of its time in many parts of the world. You can almost hear the rhythmic chanting of historical texts or the stern but guiding voices of the elder teachers instilling discipline and knowledge. The quirky tidbit: beyond formal schooling, children were also taught through storytelling, proverbs, huetlatoli, and moral admonitions, often delivered by elders. These oral traditions were carefully preserved and transmitted, reinforcing societal values, ethical conduct, and historical memory. Imagine bedtime stories that weren't just for entertainment, but were profound lessons in philosophy, history, and proper behavior, passed down through generations. Historians still argue whether the Comicac provided a more academic or a more spiritual form of higher learning, but its role in producing the empire's elite is undisputed. This comprehensive approach to education, blending formal instruction with community-based learning, ensured that every member of Aztec society understood their role and contributed to the collective well-being. It was a silent, continuous process of cultural transmission, ensuring the sophisticated knowledge and values of the empire were never lost, a testament to a society that understood the power of an educated populace. You probably wouldn't survive long in Aztec society without understanding the lessons taught from childhood, as conformity to these values was paramount. As our journey through the quiet inventions of the Aztec Empire draws to a close, you find yourself reflecting on the subtle yet profound impact of their ingenuity. It's not just about what they built, but how their solutions, so deeply rooted in their environment and worldview, continue to echo into the present day. This is the legacy's lingering echoes, demonstrating how these ancient innovations weren't confined to their time but subtly influenced subsequent cultures and, in some ways, even aspects of our modern world. One mainstream historical fact is the enduring influence of the Chinama system on agriculture. While the vast networks of Tenochtitlan largely disappeared under Spanish colonial expansion, the technique itself persists in certain areas of Xochimilco, south of Mexico City. These remaining chinampas are not just historical curiosities, they are still incredibly productive farms, providing fresh produce for the city, a living testament to the efficacy and sustainability of this ancient farming method. Imagine a technology from centuries ago still feeding a modern metropolis without a single tractor or chemical fertilizer in sight. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the old ways are truly the best ways. The quirky tidbit that might make you smile is the continued use of cacao as a beloved food and drink. While no longer a form of currency, the deep appreciation for chocolate, which the Aztecs revered as a bitter, invigorating drink, has certainly endured. Every time you enjoy a piece of chocolate, you're experiencing a direct culinary lineage from the Aztec world, a quiet invention that has conquered palates worldwide. Historians still argue whether the concept of universal education was completely lost after the conquest, or if subtle elements were incorporated into colonial systems. But the emphasis on community and practical skills certainly resonated. You might also spot echoes of Aztec design in modern Mexican art, or the resilience of indigenous languages that carry fragments of their complex worldview. Their precise astronomical observations, though reinterpreted, laid groundwork for understanding the region's cycles. As the final stars begin to twinkle faintly in the fading night sky, and the soft hum of the fan becomes the only sound you hear, remember these quiet inventors. The Aztecs, often depicted solely as fierce warriors, were also brilliant engineers, meticulous farmers, skilled healers, and profound thinkers. Their innovations weren't loud declarations, but subtle adaptations, deeply integrated into the rhythm of their lives and the landscape around them. They built a magnificent civilization not just with grand temples, but with an intricate web of quiet brilliance, each invention a testament to their deep understanding of the world. So, as you drift deeper into sleep, let these ancient echoes lull you. The fertile mud of the Chinampas, the clear waters flowing through ingenious aqueducts, the sharp glint of obsidian, the silent stories in the codices, the gentle steam of the Temascal and the rhythmic pulse of their ancient drums. They are all whispers of a world that understood how to live in harmony with its environment, to create abundance from what seemed like scarcity, and to build a lasting legacy through quiet, profound ingenuity. Let the images fade, the sounds soften, and your thoughts become as calm as the placid waters of Lake Texcoco under the moonlight. The whispers of ancient wisdom, now gently settling in your mind, will guide your dreams. Rest well,